For the avoidant who has lost someone who truly loved them, usually because they pushed them away, it's a slow burn. Because at the beginning, they will stay in their narrative that they needed to get away, that it wasn't right, that it wasn't working, that you're incompatible, that there's something wrong with you, or whatever. They want to stay there because it protects them from the thing that they don't like doing, which is being vulnerable and being accountable for their part in the downfall of a relationship that mattered to them, okay? It requires a level of self-reflection and vulnerability that they are not yet able to do. And especially at the beginning of the end of a relationship, they're still absolutely walls up. And this takes time. Like I've said in many videos, at first they're going to do everything they can to not look at their part. When you have been someone who has showed up, who has stayed when you shouldn't have, who's seen the best in them, right? You've seen the best in them, you've loved them through their darkest days, you've seen their potential, you've called this person higher, right? You have been that person that really, really felt connected to them on a deeper level than they were willing to bring to you, to the relationship, right? You have actually offered them a level of emotional safety that they hadn't really experienced and don't usually experience, because actually people who are avoidant often have difficult relationships, not just in romantic relationships, but in life. They don't experience that level of being seen, being understood. Sometimes their behavior is difficult, sometimes they're rude, sometimes they're snappy, and this doesn't get them very far in terms of friendships and, deep connections with work colleagues and things like this. They're good at putting on a mask for a while, but when it comes to the deepening of a relationship, being seen, being understood, these people are less likely to open up to anyone, right? And if they opened up to you a little bit, they went further than they normally do. And if they opened up to you a lot, then they went further than they do with the majority of people. So you have had an impact on them that has actually lowered their defenses a bit, even if it was for a moment, even if it was temporarily. Even if they suddenly shut down and disappeared or whatever, the fact that they were able to do that with you was something that is less common with the majority of other relationships that they experience in their life, maybe in their family, with their friends, with everybody, because avoidants don't like talking about emotions, they don't like talking about their past, they don't like talking about stuff. They want to have fun, they want it to be light, they want it to be easy, and they don't want conflict because it threatens their sense of control about how they feel about themselves, and it threatens that whole thing of looking at their own shame, which, if you're avoidant, it's really, really hard to do, okay? And this isn't to shame the avoidants, because the opposite of that is going to help them. But the fact is that people who are avoidant find it very difficult to take accountability. But at the end of a relationship, what an avoidant will do is very often just shut down, go silent, and to you it will look like you don't matter. To you it will look like you didn't mean a thing. To you it will look like they don't care. And this is not actually the case. Very often you have impacted them in a way that they can't express or describe because it requires too much vulnerability. They might not ever have the courage to express that, right? We don't know how willing they are going to be to do the work on self-reflection. But over time, when their kind of fear reduces because the pressure of the relationship gets lower and lower over time, maybe they see you moving on, maybe they see you happy, maybe they actually start to think, oh, maybe I've really lost this person. I wonder if they think of me. And they have these thoughts, but they might not act on them, okay? And then later down the line, maybe they've experienced more relationships that haven't worked. Maybe they've experienced being left. Maybe they've experienced those difficulties all over again. And they remember that you were the one that stayed. Now, this is not a call for you to stay longer, okay? Because you've already done enough, and we know that, and you know that. You've already showed up. You've already expressed your truth. You've already been that loving presence. You've already shown them that even when it's difficult, even when there's conflict, even when there's disconnection, you still wanted to be around. So you don't need to do any more, okay? And even if you did do more, the only thing that would make the relationship different or inspire this person to change is their own rock bottom. You cannot force an avoidant to go to rock bottom. They have to get there themselves. They have to get to a point where they're like, oh my God, why is this happening again and again and again? And why is this falling apart and that falling apart? And now I've lost this person and that person. They have to go through the depths of the consequences of their own actions and actually start to reflect on, what is it about me? What am I doing? I'm the common denominator here. And this is often when they go, oh, I lost that person who really loved me. I've actually spoken to quite a lot of older people in my life, and I've heard this story so many times where an older person, maybe in their 50s, 60s, even 70s, will still remember this one person who they shouldn't have let go, right? And they never tell them, right? That's the sad thing about this. You might never know, but you can know that how you have shown up in this person's life as someone loving, present, stable, absolutely offering the world to this person emotionally and practically, you have been that person. You are that person. You are the one that got away. What I have noticed in these older people who tell me these stories about this person that they let get away, who loved them, who showed up for them, who was really kind and loving, and they just, sabotaged it, is a real deep sense of regret of how they showed up. Right? In all honesty, I think this can take a lot of the time years for people to get to this point where they think, oh God, why did I do that to that person? Why was I so mean? Why did I let them go? That person was the right person for me. And now, they're with someone else. They see that you've actually moved on. That's a real deep regret. Okay? There's nothing you can do to force that to happen. You've already done what you can do, which is be you. Be the loving, beautiful, open spirit that you are, that wanted to love this person. What a gift. What a gift you gave this person. What an opportunity they missed. The thing is, I know that you might be listening to this thinking, this is really sad. Like, I don't want them to regret it. I just want them to fix it. I don't want them to go through years of their life going blah, 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 blah. It's not me. But they might. And I'm telling you this to be just really straight up with you. Like, avoidance is a really sticky thing for the people who really do not want to do the work. They won't get out of it. They're not going to be loved out of it. They actually have to show up differently, okay? And the thing is that we can only do so much as people who are willing to be present. But you matter too. And that's the thing. The point is that you matter in this relationship. And once you've been hurt so many times, repeatedly, through someone who is unwilling to do the work, you do get to the point where you start to think that you matter too. You really do start to want to put yourself first because you have to, because this is your life, right? You can only focus on your side of the street. And I know how sad it is to have loved someone and seen the best in them and for them to not be willing. And that means that you cannot be together because it's only going to hurt you. But in this situation, you have to have the rule that I can only be with someone who is willing to take accountability and do the work. Otherwise, it's going to be you doing all the emotional labor. It's going to be you doing all the fixing, all the filling in the gaps, right? And you might have been doing that for a long time. I know I did that for a very long time. I think another thing to understand about these situations where they seem like they really, really don't care is that in the moment they are acting and feeling like they are just going to distract themselves and they want to believe in their narrative. And it really is like they're going, la, 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 I can't hear anything because I just want to believe what I want to believe. And that's impossible. It's impossible for you to convince them or try and fix their perspective or whatever. You just have to let them, because all that's happening in that moment is they are guarded as hell. And when their guards fall down later in life, over time, through their own life's experience, that's when they start to reflect. And very often they do. But you can't force this and you can't fix their perspective. In fact, the more that you try to fix their perspective, the more their guards go up. So the best thing you can do is let them think what they want, let them be where they are, let them get you wrong, let them misunderstand it, let them get the wrong end of the stick, let them have their narrative about the situation, which is different from yours. because you have to let them have their walls up until they themselves feel safe enough to bring them down. And if you try and change it, it will just only keep their guard up more. So essentially, it's a slow burn. It takes time. It takes them starting to feel safe within themselves. It takes them getting to rock bottom. And I think it's realistic to think that this is not going to happen quickly. You know, and also I can't definitively say that because who knows, and anything is possible. But I think given the way that avoidance works, that it is highly self-protective and it's highly kind of, and it's very difficult for an avoidant to sit with that discomfort until they start to feel safe within themselves. It's not going to be easy for them. So this is a kind of like snapshot of what might happen. Like I say, everybody's different. Every situation is different. Everybody's life path is different. So, you know, it's not a definitive path for them, but this is very often the case that it takes time. And you have to be really proud of yourself for how you showed up. You have to know that your experience was real. You have to trust that what you were offering them was something beautiful. And you can actually just know that there really is nothing wrong with you and that you have the capacity to love very deeply, especially when you've stayed and stuck with somebody who has been very difficult to love and who's made it very difficult for you to stay. You know, the fact that you can do that, you have a massive heart full of love. And actually, it's time that all of that love was given back to you by someone who can do it. And I know that maybe talking about somebody else right now is not what you want to hear. So we don't need to go down that road. But the fact is that you also have to think about yourself and what you want to receive in a relationship, not just what you want to give. My nana, who recently died, always used to say it's about give and take. It's about give and take. And most of the time when you're in a relationship with someone who's avoidant, you're giving. And you don't get the chance to receive so much because it's few and far between, or they can suddenly leave, they can suddenly disappear, they can suddenly shut down. And that means you give more. And actually it has to be this balance of give and take for it to work. So you have to start getting clear about what you want a relationship to be like and really go more into, okay, let's think about my values, what I need, what matters to me, how I want to show up, how I want the other person to show up in the relationship, what behaviors are a massive no for me. You know, think about these things really clearly because you'll be able to actually detach a bit more when you do this. So if you'd like any help with this, come and join any of my programs. I've got one-to-one spaces open, again at the moment. They're not always open, they do close when I get full. So if you want to work one-to-one with me, we can dive into your values, your belief systems, the unconscious patterns that might be running the show. All of these things are so important to help you to let go and detach and to find you again. After a relationship like this, it is sticky, you lose yourself, you don't know what's left and right, you're confused, it's horrible. And my work helps you to get unstuck and to get clarity about what's happened and who you are again, which makes you stronger in the future. Let's say if they come back, let's say if they talk to you again, because bearing in mind, they might do that. They might poke their head in, they might send a little light-hearted message, they might even say sorry at some point, but you need to know yourself what you need, what you expect, so that you can be strong and grounded and trust yourself that the things that happened before will not happen again. Okay. And I've also got my group coaching, my Heartbreak Healers Club, which is a beautiful space where you get to meet other people in a similar situation to you. I've had a really beautiful review about this recently, which I've put on my community tab. So if you want to hear what people are saying about the Heartbreak Healers Club, then you can find it there. There's all the information in the links down below. There's also the 30-day ex-recovery detox challenge, which is going to start on the 1st of August. It's going to be awesome. There's going to be challenges every day to keep you accountable, to do something for yourself, to give back to yourself. It's going to be a really nice month where you're going to feel like you're consistently working towards your own healing, growth, recovery. Okay. So if you want any more information about that, you can find out in the links below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.